Have you ever stepped into a Tim Hortons lately and thought, something feels off? The coffee doesn't taste the same, the food feels cheaper, the service isn't what it used to be, and that warm, welcoming vibe, the one that made Tim Hortons feel like home, is fading fast. What happened to Canada's most beloved coffee chain? Today, we're peeling back the layers on Tim Hortons' dramatic rise and painful decline, how it grew from a single donut shop started by a hockey player into a national icon, only to fall victim to corporate greed, cost-cutting, and a loss of identity. And most importantly, what lessons every brand can learn from this cautionary tale. Stay with me, because this story is about more than coffee. It's about how a brand can lose its soul. It all began in 1964, when hockey legend Tim Horton opened his first donut shop in Hamilton, Ontario. His dream was simple, to create a cozy place where everyday Canadians could grab a fresh cup of coffee, share a donut, and feel a sense of community. But Tim knew he couldn't do it alone. In 1967, he teamed up with Ron Joyce, a sharp businessman with a relentless drive. Together, they built something extraordinary. What started as one little donut shop quickly expanded into a franchise model, spreading across Canada at lightning speed. Tim Horton tragically died in a car accident in 1974, leaving behind both a hockey legacy and a fledgling coffee chain. Ron Joyce bought out Horton's widow and took full control. Many questioned the move, but Joyce's vision pushed Tim Hortons into hypergrowth. And then came two strokes of genius, Timbits in 1976 and Roll Up the Rim in 1985. Timbits turned leftover dough into bite-sized joy, while Roll Up the Rim became a yearly tradition that had Canadians buzzing with excitement. By the 1990s, Tim Hortons wasn't just a coffee shop, it was part of Canadian identity. By the late 90s and early 2000s, Tim Hortons was everywhere. Small towns, big cities, you couldn't drive for long without spotting that familiar red and white sign. It wasn't just a place to grab coffee, it was where neighbors met, where road trips started, where kids celebrated hockey wins with a box of Timbits. It was more than fast food. It was comfort. It was Canadian pride in a cup. And then came a major move. In 1995, Wendy's acquired Tim Hortons. The idea was to combine morning and evening traffic under one roof, Wendy's for lunch and dinner, Tim Hortons for breakfast. But the marriage wasn't smooth. Franchisees pushed back, cultures clashed, and by 2006, the relationship ended. Tim Hortons went independent again, stronger than ever. So where did it all go wrong? In 2014, Tim Hortons was acquired in an $18 billion mega merger with Burger King, orchestrated by 3G Capital. On paper, it was a match made in heaven, global expansion, deeper pockets, bigger dreams. But 3G Capital wasn't your typical investor. They were famous for one brutal strategy, zero-based budgeting. Every expense had to be justified from scratch each year. Translation? Aggressive cost-cutting. This worked wonders for financial spreadsheets, but it came at a human cost. We've seen this story before. When 3G and Warren Buffett took over Heinz in 2013, thousands of jobs were slashed, plants were closed, and product quality suffered. When Kraft and Heinz merged, more cuts followed. So when 3G set its sights on Tim Hortons, Canadians braced for impact. At first, RBI, the new parent company, promised that nothing would change. Tim Hortons would remain proudly Canadian. The brand would grow globally without losing its roots. But the reality? Very different. Menus started to shift. Freshly made foods were replaced with frozen, reheated items. Coffee, once considered the gold standard, lost its signature taste. Customers noticed. And worse, they started migrating to competitors like McDonald's, who suddenly offered a more consistent, better-tasting cup of coffee. The brand's warm, welcoming vibe? Gone. Wait times grew longer, mistakes more frequent, and that friendly neighborhood coffee shop feeling gave way to something colder, something corporate. Then, in 2018, things exploded. Ontario raised the minimum wage from $11.60 to $14 an hour. But instead of raising prices slightly to cover costs, Tim Hortons franchisees, backed by RBI's strict policies, slashed employee benefits and cut paid breaks. Even worse, some of the owners behind these cuts were the children of Tim Horton and Ron Joyce, the founding families themselves. The backlash was fierce. Workers protested. Politicians condemned the move. Canadians felt betrayed. For decades, Tim Hortons had wrapped itself in the Canadian flag. But now, it looked like a greedy, corporate bully. In just 1 year, Tim Hortons dropped from 13th to 67th on Forbes' list of Canada's most reputable companies. A brand once trusted above all others was now among the least respected. As if things weren't bad enough, Tim Hortons then tampered with one of its most beloved traditions: roll up the rim. Instead of keeping the simple, nostalgic paper cup design, RBI pushed it into a fully digital format. Customers now had to use an app to tap and reveal. Sure, it saved costs, but it killed the magic. The ritual of rolling up the rim with your own hands, the excitement of finding winner, printed under the cup, it was gone. Canadians felt cheated. Here's the truth: Tim Hortons built its empire on authenticity. On being the little coffee shop that understood Canadians. On warmth, comfort, and community. But under 3G Capital's rule, the brand traded soul for spreadsheets. They cut corners on food, alienated workers, angered franchisees, and leaned harder than ever into marketing slogans about being Canada's coffee, while acting less Canadian than ever. And customers saw right through it. So, where does Tim Hortons go from here? The brand still has thousands of locations. It's still woven into Canadian culture. And its name still carries emotional weight. But rebuilding trust will take more than flashy marketing. It means listening to customers again. Prioritizing quality over cost-cutting. Treating employees with respect. And truly living up to the Canadian values it claims to represent. Because at the end of the day, Tim Hortons isn't just about coffee. It's about identity. And if a brand loses its identity, no amount of global expansion can save it. Tim Hortons' story is more than just a tale of a coffee chain gone wrong. It's a cautionary lesson for every brand. 1. Don't sacrifice identity for profit. Customers can forgive mistakes, but they won't forgive betrayal. Tim Hortons betrayed Canadians by pretending to be about community while acting like a ruthless corporation. 2. Short-term gains can kill long-term trust. Frozen food, weaker coffee, and stripped-down service might save money today, but they destroy loyalty tomorrow. 3. Tradition matters. Roll Up the Rim wasn't just a promotion. It was an experience. A memory. A ritual. Brands that tamper with traditions risk losing the emotional bonds that make customers stay. So the next time you sip your double-double, ask yourself, are you tasting Canada's coffee, or just another victim of corporate greed?